Hello, farmers, and welcome to another episode of the harvest season. My name is Cody.
And my name is Jonnie.
And we are here today to talk about cottagecore games.
Woo!
Woo! As always, transcripts are available in the show notes and on the website. And today's podcast is about Palia, which is a game that Jonnie and I have both played, and we actually played it together. Wow!
So cool.
Wow, MMOs. So we will be talking about Palia, and as always, we have some news, but a little lighter on the news this week, which is pretty cool. But first, Jonnie, how are you? What have you been up to?
I'm good. There is a game that I've been playing, and I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Palia. No, it's not called Palia. I have been playing that one, but I mean to talk about Pal World, which they both start the same, so you know.
Oh, you're on the Pal World train.
Well, I was on the Pal World train, and I'm not off the Pal World train. Like it's a fine game. I just kind of got what I wanted out of that game relatively quickly. I have like zero interest in talking about the controversy around the game. It is just a survival game with Pokemon who do things in the world, and there's more, like, I guess, probably deeper combat as a result of there being Pokemon. Which I liked Pokemon Legends Arceus. I'll edit out the one that's right. So yeah, like I liked that game. I think this game has a similar-ish gameplay loop. It's not as fast and fluid as Arceus, and there's a lot more of that survival base building aspect, which I don't like survival games. Like I kind of just find that base building stuff boring and pointless. And so I did like a tower, and I did some of the boss battles, and I was like, oh, okay, I kind of get what this game is, but there wasn't. Like, there's not a compelling narrative that makes me feel like, oh, I need to go and do all of that. It's kind of like, I did some of that, and that feels like enough. So that's I guess, my mini summary of Pal World. I also think the kind of, like, the gun side of things is, like, it's just a little, 15-year-old edgelord, like, vibes. It just, it comes off really cringe. And a lot of things in the game kind of do that, where you're like killing the bad guys, and you can like the way you release Pokemon is with a meat cleaver, and then you can eat them, and it's just like it's just all a bit like, stop trying so hard.
To me it looked like Fortnite, Pokemon, Arceus, Breath of the Wild, I don't know, and I just that's not a compelling enough thing for me, so I didn't do it, but I
mean, it is more fun than Pokemon.
Whoa, hot take.
That is not a hot take. Pokemon has not been fun for a long time.
Oh no.
So it has that going for it, but I think even there, right, like even if I don't enjoy a Pokemon game as much, I am more likely to play through it to the end, because I'm so used to the loop and the, beating the Elite Four. Like, I start the game knowing that beating the Elite Four is the objective, and there was no real hook like that for me in Power World. It was kind of like, cool, I experienced it. I've been part of the, the hot, topic of the day, and now I'm keen to move on to other things.
That's fair.
But that's really all I've been doing. What have you been up to, Cody?
Well, I just submitted a manuscript, so I'm very excited about that.
Congratulations.
Any grad student listening is probably screaming like excitedly for me, because it is a huge undertaking to publish a manuscript. So it basically like took up a lot of my energy and time the last like month or so of trying to like get it all organized and getting it like sent to different people, and then I'll like think that something's really good, and then one of my co-authors will be like, no, like actually fix this, and I'm like, heck, And so, like, it's just to finally just have it like be in the hands of the editors or reviewers or whomever is just like, oh, so great. Other than that, I also just finally got ADHD medication. Woo. And for some reason, my brain was like, cool, you can now hyper focus pretty effectively on things and shut your brain off. Why not build a fox-shaped island in Minecraft? So I'm building an island that is this in the shape of a fox, a sleeping fox, and I'm going to build a fox sanctuary on top of it. And also, I'm building it large enough that it shows up as a sleeping fox on the biggest size map. Which ends up being...
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why?
Because my ADHD brain has decided that this is what brings me joy. And it genuinely is so amazing. I mean, it might also be a testament to how much I hate writing, that my brain was like, what could be more fun than this? Like, maybe this thing. So yeah, it's basically, oh, hello. I have a cat rubbing against my leg right now. Hello, little man. It's basically, I think we calculated it. It's like probably 30,000 blocks, Minecraft blocks. And we're using orange terracotta. So I'm not doing it alone. One of my best friends, Devin, shout out to Devin. I love you. You're one of my best friends. Anytime that either of us are going through anything in our lives, we'll just like start up a Minecraft server. And so last few months have been pretty stressful, so we started a Minecraft server, and we've been doing these like fun little projects like this, and I just decided to do this. And he was like, he had a moment where he was like, okay, we're doing this, I guess. Okay. And so he's been mining terracotta for me and dyeing it white. Luckily, like there's this new biome that has orange terracotta that like naturally spawns, so he doesn't have to dye the orange ones. So he can just like make it, and we can just farm it, and then I use it to build. So yeah, he does that in the mornings, and then I log on in the evenings and construct. It has a snoot so far, and I'm building up the top of the head. So listeners, if you're interested in hearing the updates of Foxcraft, I'll start posting about it in the Slack, because it's going to take probably a month to finish it. Like, we're not even halfway done with the head.
I'm excited to get more updates on Foxcraft. But also, this sounds awfully a lot like a job.
No, it's fun. It's fun. I like.
Mm-hmm. You've got shift work going, you know.
This is oh yeah, we do have shift work going. This is another like one of those things where sometimes I'm like, am I autistic? Like, am I a little autistic? Do I have a touch of autism? I think I do. Like, if this tickles my brain in a good way.
Well, maybe we won't self-diagnose, but we'll just say you must really like foxes somewhere in there.
Oh no, it's more like my therapist was like, perhaps. So it's a little bit past self-diagnosing. But anyway, so yeah, but the most important thing really that I've been working on, I mean, this is sarcasm. The most important thing is Foxcraft. But sarcastically, I went to an event that happened today. Americans, today is February 2nd. Jonnie, what do you know about Groundhog's Day?
I know there was a terrible Bill Murray movie, which actually, now that I think about it, like, do you need to say terrible before Bill Murray movie? I think that's just implied. So,
okay.
And the, like, I don't know, I assume it's a groundhog, but that's the weirdest name for what, you know, basically just looks like I don't know, like a slightly larger rat comes out because they've been sleeping or whatever. I don't know why they come out. They just do. And Americans go crazy because they're all in some weird cult. That's
Yeah.
Groundhog's Day, right?
I mean, you're not wrong. Okay, so Groundhog's Day is a tradition observed in the United States and Canada on February 2nd of every year. It derives, this is from the Wikipedia, it derives from the Pennsylvania Dutch superstition that if a groundhog is also known as a marmot or a woodchuck, or my personal favorite, a whistle pig. A groundhog emerges from its burrow on this day and sees its shadow, it will retreat to its den and winter will go on for 6 more weeks. If it does not see its shadow, then spring will arrive early. So this sounds, that's like, okay, cool, whatever. Like, there's probably a guy that like watches this groundhog come out right over. No, it's a cult. 100%. So the ceremony is held in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, which is less than 2 hours from where I am. So I've been wanting to go to this every year. And I just haven't been able to make it. But this year I was able to make it. And basically it centers around what Wikipedia says is the semi-mythical groundhog named Punxsutawney Phil. So Punxsutawney Phil basically comes out, and apparently like looks, I'm trying to see if I can find like the ceremony because this is ridiculous. He basically comes out and looks around and sees his shadow or whatever. And the wizards who are, I think they're called wizards, the guys that like run Groundhog's Day in Punxsutawney, basically, like listen to him. Like, so Phil comes out, he either does or does not see his shadow, and whispers to the wizard who can understand groundhogese, and tells them whether or not he saw his shadow. And if he did, they literally have scripts that they read. And people who go to this event every year, like, they know what the script is. So there's a certain part in the script where like the guy doesn't even finish saying everything. There's a certain part where like he says either, and his shadow fell upon him or something, or like, and a shadow he did not see. And at that point the crowd goes crazy. But basically like thousands of people flock to this city in Pennsylvania and watch this ceremony, and some of them show up at like midnight. And the ceremony isn't until sunrise, which was 7:30 this morning. So we left at 4:30 to get there.
Oh my God.
And then we got there, and there's literally thousands of people around this little stage with these guys that like are all wearing like top hats and like black jackets, and very like, they look very New York investment banker of the 20s or something like that. And yeah, it was just so crazy. And he did not see his shadow, so spring is going to come early to the United States. Praise be to our groundhog meteorologist.
I have so many thoughts. First, like, Whistle Pig Day would sound so much better. That's just first thought.
Okay,
like, that's
yeah,
just
yeah,
undeniably a better name.
Fair.
Second thought, the fact that there are wizards surrounding this is like, yeah, you're right. This is definitely a cult, and it sounds like a cult I kind of want to be a part of, because like any cult that has wizards dressed as 1920s bankers, that sounds kind of amazing. I'm into this.
Yeah.
Third, based on your description, if someone, an alien landed on Earth and they listened to your description and all they heard is our podcast, they would legitimately think that you're just describing another game. It is that sort of.
So I was debating mentioning this, that like I kind of want a game about this.
And that was going to be my final point. I think this would be a great basis for a cottagecore game. Like you do the year, it starts on Groundhog's Day, and maybe, I don't know what you're working towards, but like that, make that your sort of New Year's event. That sounds like a great little thing to do.
Well, so Punxsutawney, here, I'm going to try and find this information. Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania has a population of 5,000 humans. So during this celebration, their population basically doubles. So imagine being in like Stardew or Coral Island or something, And one single day of the year, the population doubles, and all the stores, like, even though it was Friday and it was really, really early, all the stores were open. Like, the bookstore was open, and they had free hot chocolate, and like they had like a couple different craft shows that were going on in this. So it's everyone basically in this community basically like waits for this. Like, this is their big like tourism thing every year. So I think the goal of a game like that would be to build up your stocks of things, make sure you're not going to run out of stock, make sure that you have enough food for all of these people, enough like infrastructure, that you have enough parking, because like we had to find parking and we almost had like some of the last parking spaces. And so like there's all this stuff that you could totally do in a game and have the regular day-to-day thing that you're doing, like, you know, farming or whatever, just kind of be like normal, but you are always building up to this huge event, annual event, where it kind of starts becoming like City Skylines or something, where you have to manage like all these people.
Make it happen, internet. There we go.
Yeah, make it happen.
We've done the hard work. We came up with the idea, right? That's the hard part.
Yeah. Make it happen. Well, now that we've spent probably 15 minutes talking about Groundhog's Day, and listeners, let me know if you've gone to the place where Punxsutawney Phil is called Gobbler's Knob. Let me know if you've gone there.
Whoa. It's called what?
Gobbler's Knob.
This is definitely like a cult. That is... How is that a real name for a place?
Yeah, it is. I'll also post some pictures in the Slack of me and my friends there. And also Stella. Stella went... Oh, and the town has like groundhog statues outside of a bunch of the buildings. So like outside of the library, they have a groundhog that's like reading a book. And then outside of the bank, they have one that's like has money. Outside of the fireman's house, they have one with like a fireman's axe holding a baby. So they have all of these like the whole town is leaned into it 100%. But yeah, so it's it's a cult.
Amazing.
Okay, well, now that we've talked about cults, let's talk about some news. Speaking of cults, wildflowers. I don't know if wildflowers is a cult. I just...
Look, if it is, Kev is definitely in that cult.
Kev has cult-like devotion for this game. So there's more details on an update that's coming up. There is going to be a hairstylist's salon named Yuri's Salon. I'm just going to add a bunch of hairstyles. There's a plushie coming. And I did a little bit of internet sleuthing. As someone who has not played Wildflowers, I did a little bit of internet sleuthing. The picture of the plushie that they have on Twitter, which you can find on the show notes, is like obscured. Like it's kind of in shadow. So you can't really tell what it is. But I think it's a flying pig. What do you think?
Sure. Flying pig sounds like a thing that a plushie could be. I have done zero internet sleuthing.
Okay. Yeah, so it definitely looks like the flying pig to me. I just kind of like looked up oh my gosh. Sorry, I scrolled down and it went to discover more, and Disney Dreamlight Valley tweeted today and said, "We might not have groundhogs in the game, but what do you think a capybara seeing its shadow means?" They're leaning into Groundhog's Day. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a flying pig. So flying pig plush coming to Wildflowers. Unconfirmed is that it's a flying pig, but pretty sure it is. Yeah, I mean, have you played Wildflowers? Do you have...
No, the visual, like, I get that it's like better than it looks, but the visual style I just find very off-putting. And there's just too much else that I want to play and can't get to, that even though this game is meant to be really good, like, it's just too much of a blocker for me to invest any time into this one, unfortunately.
Yep, I am in the exact same boat. But I'm sure that we'll hear all about Yuri's Salon update and all of that from Kev, which will be great. Next up is Lightyear Frontier. The early access for this game is releasing on March 19th on Steam, Xbox, and Game Pass. There is a demo out now on Steam. And this game will be a part of Steam Next Fest, which starts on February 5th to the 12th. So I believe by the time this podcast comes out, then Next Fest will be going on. If you are interested in seeing some gameplay or anything like that, that would be a really good thing to tune into.
What are your thoughts Lightyear Frontier on is the farming, but in mix. That's their gimmick, I guess.
In space.
Yes.
In space farming. I saw on their on this news from Steam, like, you know how we say like hello farmers or whatever, they say exo farmers. So they said like something like play the demo now, exo farmers, and I was like, oh my gosh. Like that's just kind of a cute little way of talking about them. I don't know what exo means. Now that I said it, and then now I'm like, wait, what am I talking about? What does this mean? Meaning outside, outer, external. Cool.
Like every farm. Every farmer is technically an exo farmer.
No, because it's like outside, like outer worlds, like space. Like we call them exoplanets. Like exoplanets are outside of our solar system. You know?
I don't know how that applies to farming, but it sounds made up.
It's exoplanet farmers. You're a farmer on an exoplanet.
But they don't say exoplanet farmers. They say exo farmers.
They say exo. It's just a little cute little conjugation.
They should change it to like, remove the E and just be like exo, like kiss hug farmers. That would be a much cuter way to say hello.
I kind of want to re-record. Hello, kiss hug farmers. Welcome to another episode of the Farmers season. Oh my gosh, we are off the rails.
Great. Are you going to try this?
So, I've never been a big mech person. Like, growing up, like, Transformers, like that kind of stuff, it was never my jam. So to be determined, but props not. What about you?
So I talked about this one a little bit on, I think, the upcoming Game of the Year show, where it's on my list of like games that I want to try, but they may not be a priority. But I don't think I knew at that point that it was coming to Game Pass, which, it's amazing how much Game Pass changes, my willingness to try some stuff out, right? Because I'm way more willing to just jump in for a bit and see if it instantly grabs me. Or not. So I think it's a lot more likely than I initially anticipated that I will give this a go. Because I like the visual style. It feels distinct. I don't have a particular affinity or non-affinity for mechs, but I am interested to see what it means in terms of how they differentiate, your traditional cottagecore farming game loop with the addition of something like a mech, because you can see a lot. There's probably more interesting ways to do tools and things like that when you have a mech, which I am really hoping they take full advantage of, and it's not just like regular tools, but they look like mech attachments, right? I'm hoping there's something else that distinguishes them. Which I guess technically I could find out because the demo is out, so I could probably find out or look into it a bit more.
But the demo's on Steam.
Yeah, demo's only on Steam.
Not Game Pass. Yeah, I agree with you about the Game Pass thing. Like, it's really opened up what I'm able to play. And I really like that. But I don't think Lightyear Frontier will be that. Because again, like, we have so many other things. I have so many other things I want to play, so many other things I'm doing in my life, and if it's a game that's gonna like pull me in like that, like Coral Island or something, it's really got to grab me. So,
agree.
Okay, so next up on our news list, Ages of Kataria. was meant to be coming out Q1 2024, so anytime, but has been delayed until Q2 2025. Personally, seems a little late to be making that announcement, but I get it. Quote, "We have been working hard on Ages of Kataria, and our main goal is to find funding to expand the team and work full-time." I'm about to read you a list of things that they've been working on. See if you can pick out the things that one of these things is not like the other. Okay. Quote, "In the past few months, we've been working on building upgrades, customization, villager conversations, traits, events and quests, death, hunting, cooking, farming, animals, clicking to collect resources, villager pooping mechanics, and so much more, which we'll be discussing and showing in future updates." Jonnie, any of those jump out to you?
Yeah, I'm really interested in these villager pooping mechanics.
Same. What do you mean? I'm that meme of oh my gosh, Katniss Everdeen's the friggin' actress that plays her, where she's like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean? On Hot Ones. Jennifer Lawrence, I think is her name.
Yes.
I'm that meme when I read that.
Yeah, I like, that is wild to me. I mean, I assume the actual answer you were looking for is death. Like,
no, it was originally villager pooping mechanics, but death was like, that's interesting. But that happens in game. Like everything else in this list is something that you would find in a cottagecore game in some way or another. But villager pooping mechanics just like comes out. It just stands out so much, and I have questions.
Yeah. And I mean, we've kind of buried the lead somewhat, but this update has, I would say, there are some concerning elements to it, right? You know, they're talking about looking for a publisher, and this was a Kickstarted project.
Yeah.
And I guess if you are a Kickstarter of it, this is an update that I guess, you know, would reduce the likelihood that you are actually going to get it. And not saying whether it will or won't happen, it just seems like there's now some additional hurdles that they are now flagging up, which is unfortunate because I think this game looks like it's got a great visual style to it. So hoping they can find the funding that they need. But I would not be putting much stock in that Q2 2025 date until there was more updates on whether or not they find a publisher or you know, are able to sort of clearly state what the next steps are.
They did have someone jump out on their Kickstarter 3 days ago. Shell M said, you know, so is it A, that you needed more money and just didn't tell anyone, or B, that you mismanaged the finances early on or underestimated how much you needed? If B, why weren't we told about this before? Just fair. You know, they got, I'm trying to see, $111,000. Like you people gave you money. Like, you should at least let them know what's happening with that. And it sounds like they, you know, $110,000 doesn't really go that far, and they had 10 people working on it originally, and then when that money ran out, some people had to leave and some people stayed to continue to work on the game. But that a lot of people had to go back to working part-time, and so it's a lot of people's time is now split. And they're not able, you know, if they still had the ability to work full-time with the whole team of 10 or team of however many are on there now, they probably could get it out a lot earlier. But I mean, I get it. This manuscript that I just submitted was supposed to be done like a year ago. So, so I get it. But
I mean, this is one of the risks around Kickstarter projects, right? You know, $110,000 is a lot of money in the context of an individual, but in the context of developing a game when you've got a team of 10, that's even just considering salaries, that's only a couple of months, if that, worth of runway. And that's not counting all of the, you know, server costs and all those other fun things that are very expensive. So $110,000 to develop a game is not that much. So probably a little bit of a, you know, it's just the unfortunate reality of Kickstarter, I guess. But hopefully they can find their way out of it, because the game looks good.
I think that the people at Third Pie Studios, and I'm assuming it's Alex McCord, who's the CEO and creative director, their post explaining the situation to the concerned people was very like the comment that they have on this was very thorough and very polite and very good. So it's difficult and it's always sad when you have to like postpone something, but I think they did a good job of perhaps maybe let people know a little earlier, but it's fine. Stuff happens. Stuff that should happen might not happen. I don't know. I'm so scared to play this game. Rusty's Retirement has a public demo that is out now. Jonnie.
Yeah.
I want to do this demo so bad, but it's like it seems like it's like a floodgate. You know, like once I push that button, am I just a slave to Rusty's Retirement? Like, and
yes,
and
is
keeping
the answer
it
to that
going,
question.
and
Yep.
But I want to play it, and I want to help them. I want to give them feedback. I don't know. What did you think about this?
I mean, I'm in the same category as you, and Rusty's Retirement, just so everyone remembers, is the idle farming game that's being launched soon, but yeah, going into demo. I am equally concerned about this for all of the same reasons, and I think as because we first talked about this a few months ago, and since then I think the imagery and the, you know, like they've added more, we're seeing more about how it will look on the screen, and everything they add, I'm just like, oh, it looks like it's getting better, right? Like there's those things that I have, like you have those mental questions around, how would this aspect work? And I feel like as time has gone on, I'm seeing those things come in ways that's like, yeah, that's how I would want that to look. So I'm very nervous. You know, how we'll just reference memes to describe our feelings on this. This is very much the Ralph Wiggum, I'm in trouble.
I'm in danger.
Yep, that's the one.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess I don't know if I'm trying to see. Oh, it is PC and Mac. I'll probably do it. So listeners, listen back. Well, I'm sure we'll give feedback on this in one of the next upcoming episodes, because I will probably bite the bullet and do this. Now that I don't have a deadline that is for the manuscript that is fast approaching. So
yeah, and Al was telling me he's going to install this on his work PC, so he's going to have a very detailed show on it in a few weeks' time.
Sure.
Just throwing Al totally under the bus. I believe he's not going to do that. But he could do it. He could do it. He could do it for you listeners.
He's probably screaming right now. Okay, so the last bit of news is for a game called Kama Eru, a frog refuge. And this has the same vibes as Usagi Shima, so my brain was like, oh, let me figure out what Kama Eru means. In Japanese, it means take a stand, which is not what I was expecting it to be. I was expecting it to be like Frog Island or something, because Usagi Shima is Bunny Island. But no. Okay. So Kama Eru, a frog refuge, quote, foster a sanctuary for frogs and restore the biodiversity of the wetlands in Kama Eru. A cozy farming sim where you raise frogs by playing mini games and decorating your habitat. Hop right to it. What do you have thoughts about this, Jonnie? Are you?
Yeah, it looks really cute, right? Like it definitely gives off the same vibe as Usagi Shima, but it looks a lot more detailed. Just lots of little things about, you know, so in Usagi Shima, like you kind of placed decorations, but that was it. Like I think the idea of restoring the wetland looks cool. It seems like there's lots of customization options, which is pretty cool. The frogs look super cute, and like it looks like there's like tons of fun color combinations. So I'm guessing there's going to be like a little bit of a a Pokemon creature collection style aspect to this, which I know Usagi Shima had as well. And alongside, maybe some more human characters and some interactions in that way. This has the potential to be a really, really great game, I think. Usagi Shima didn't really stick with me. I think, one, because I didn't really want a mobile game at that point, but also it just felt a bit shallow. And this looks like it kind of has the depth that I'm looking for. Like, this is ticking a lot of boxes. And I think it's one of those really interesting things in the cottagecore genre of really doing something unique that doesn't have to be, like, the whole thing doesn't have to be 100% unique, right? A lot of this seems inspired by Usagi Shima. However, well, and it's probably not, right? It's probably done independently, given how closely they're sort of coming out. But frogs is not an area that's really been explored, or is that common outside of, like, the only other time I can think of really even seeing frogs is catching them in Fae Farm, where they're a critter. So, yeah, that was kind of like a weird brain mush of thoughts, because this is the first we've heard about this game, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, so I think this is the game that I saw on Instagram, or not Instagram, Twitter, and I tagged Al in it because someone tagged me in it, because my friends know that this is the kind of game that I will just eat right up. This is the first time we're covering it on the podcast. I wanted to grab my facts straight before I said anything, but the developer of Apico, L, is actually also developing a frog breeding and collecting game called Mudborn. So instead of Bloodborne, it's Mudborn. Very cute. And it's very in the same vein, looks a lot like Apico. So it'll be the same kind of thing of going and helping a frog deity rediscover her lost children. This is in Elle's message about it in March of last year in the Discord. Quote, I've always joked about making Apico but frog, but it's never been much more than that. With the game jam theme of pond, however, it seemed like a good opportunity to make it a reality. So he has been working on that, which is great. So there are other frog games coming out. I just wanted to say that because I really like Apico, clearly. But this game is looks a lot different and looks like its own little thing. And I really like they actually have human characters in this game that Usagi Shima did not have. So there might be like kind of more of a social aspect. And then I also saw kind of a crafting system or like a crafting mini game or something that looked a lot like Spiritfarer's mini games, which I was also really interested in.
Yeah, they looked really good. And even little things like there was painting a birdhouse, it looked like, just as a little customization option, which I think is pretty cool.
So, yeah, right now it's just coming 2024. We're not really sure when, but it is also going to be part of Steam's Next Fest. So make sure to check in on that. And last I was looking, when I looked at their thing earlier, oh no, they're not doing it anymore. Nope, maybe they are. They're broadcasting. The developer is currently playing on Steam, and they are wearing a frog hat and have a bunch of frogs behind them, and it's so heckin' cute. So you could probably watch that stream video of them streaming the game. But it looks pretty good. Cool. Well, that was our news. Woo! So on to the main topic, which is Palia. To remind people, Palia is what one of the phrases that they used was a cozy world made for you. So it's the free-to-play farming MMORPG game. And we have been playing it. I played it. I probably played like I was going to say 30 hours, but that might be a little bit much. Maybe like 20 hours around. What about you, Jonnie? Like how are you playing the game? Do you have preliminary thoughts? The non-spoilery kind of vibe thoughts about it to say before we jump in?
So I'm playing on Switch, and it runs really well on Switch, right? Like I feel like that's a important thing to to recognize early because the Switch is very old at this point. Like, it doesn't run perfectly. I'm sure it runs a lot better if you're playing via PC. But no real major issues in terms of how it plays. And I really like what they're trying to achieve with Palia. However, I find it difficult probably to recommend at this stage until there's a little bit more from a content perspective in the game, is probably my very high level thought. But I really love what this game is trying to achieve from introducing that MMO aspect.
Yeah, I echo that sentiment. I'm also playing on Switch. And I think it has a lot of potential, but that there's some stuff that some things that aren't quite built out yet. And after playing MMOs for so long, like World of Warcraft or something, I mean, and that's probably not a fair comparison. But after playing things like that, like some of the functionality of the MMO side of it, and the world just seems like it seems like you play for 10 hours and then you're like, well, I get it.
I do want to like come back to the WoW comparison, because I think my initial, like my very, very early thoughts when I started playing was it did feel a little bit like when you first started playing WoW. Obviously, like the combat is the big difference, but when I think about how the world is constructed, it did feel like World of Warcraft, where the world is big and your character feels a lot smaller than it typically does in cottagecore style games, which took a bit of it was a bit of an adjustment, right? When you get the first quest to walk into town, and actually takes a little bit of time and you're trying to work out where to go. That was a little bit of a brain reset and exploring the map. Like the maps, there's two regions, and they're pretty decent size. And yeah, so there is that good early exploration element that I really like.
Yeah, I will say I haven't really explored the second area too much. But I agree that it feels like I feel like I'm still playing and exploring and still encountering things that are surprising to me. Or like, oh wow, I didn't know this was here, or oh, I've never been over here before, or finding out there's a whole underground, like to the city, was really cool. So yeah, I think it's got more good than bad, but it's definitely maybe like wait a bit. But well, let's dive into a little bit about the story itself. Do you have a good grasp on like the story? And want to mention it?
Yeah, so I think there's two aspects to the story. Well, I think it's all sort of one connected story. And there are a series of dungeons. There are currently 3 in the game, but there's at least one more intended. I've done all 3 of the dungeons. But it's very closely tied, I guess, to the nature of people and magic in the world. So none of the other characters, none of the NPCs in the game are humans. They're a different race. I can't recall off the top of my head.
No idea. I don't know if I've ever known.
Yeah, what exactly they are. Yeah. But you're basically, every player character in the world is a human that's effectively been reanimated by some form of god. And that enables, you have a stronger connection into some of the magic, and the dungeons are about exploring sort of what happened to humanity. And it seems like in the wider context of the world, magic is kind of one of those things that's known about, but also heavily suppressed and kind of taboo to engage with. But some of those restrictions don't apply to humans. And so you're kind of exploring that at the stage that I'm up to, which is not fully finished the story, but I guess a decent way through. There isn't I don't have a sense of what it's building towards. I guess that's probably a big gap for me.
That's my biggest concern with the story is, like, basically you teleport or get reanimated or whatever, but your character just like shows up and someone's just standing there and they're like, oh wow, another human, like please follow the chain of humans that are all heading to the town. And then you go to the town and then they give you like a plot of land, and then you can build like a house on it and stuff. But past that, you're just kind of free. I mean, there are like quests, but there's not, it's very open world in that way that like you could then never do the quests ever again, or like the story quests, I guess. Some of the quests you have to do to be able to improve your abilities, but a lot of it, like, it seems secondary to me, or just like a non-existent almost. So I would like that to be built up a little bit more. And I also would like the characters to be built up a little bit more. So there's all the NPCs are basically Palians that live in this world, that have lived in this world. And they have some, like personality to them, and they have relationships between them and stuff. But for some reason, I just wasn't really connecting to them. I don't know.
Yeah, I felt the same way.
What your experience was. Yeah.
I think a lot of the NPCs, I would say that their role is to introduce various skills to you, and there's more skills than most cottagecore games have, and it's kind of like their whole, like, they have one personality trait and that's it, so they're very two-dimensional in that way. I think about the bug catcher, and his whole thing is he's a kid and he's part of the local scout group, or whatever their world equivalent is, and so he's always excited and always kind of hyper and always wanting to catch bugs, and that's it, right? Like, I didn't feel like anything else from that character.
Or like the bookstore lady, which I didn't know there was a bookstore for the longest time, but the bookstore lady, like, you go in there and she's just like, has the vibe of like, you hurt my books, I hurt your face. Like, she's just very like protective of her books. But then I don't think I've talked to her about anytime I talk to her, she's not mentioned anything else. Like, I don't know anything about her. There's not like a time when I'll go back in the bookstore and she's like, okay, I guess you're nice or whatever. Like, but that could just be me not really understanding how to progress the, like, hearts, basically. I'm trying to think of how to, like, the progression of your friendship with these characters. It's not clear to me how to do that. After a certain while, you can gift them things, but like, half of the people I try and gift them something and they're like, no, I don't want that. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's a whole relationship side to the game, and it's probably, for me, the weakest aspect. So you can talk to NPCs and you can ask them for a clue about what someone wants. Each week they want 4 different gifts, and you can increase the relationship by talking to them and some of those sorts of things. But it kind of all feels surface level, and I have to say it's very weird for an MMO. I think that's the part that really doesn't connect, because it's like, yes, there are 20 of us all trying to make friends with the same character right now. Like, it's it doesn't feel particularly genuine, and kind of feels at odds with everything else that the game's trying to do, and potentially one of those features that they put in because this is what cottagecore games do.
Yeah. I don't really know how, like, I'm trying to think of, like, how that could be fixed.
I mean, just don't have it in the game. I just don't think it's necessary.
Okay. I guess that's also true. Like, that was the other thing, is, like, you don't really know. So you're human. You don't really know, like, why you're here, or if, like, you have some type of greater purpose. And then once you complete that purpose, like, you're gonna ascend or something, like, or return to the dirt. Like, there's no idea, at least in the beginning, and at least to the part where I'm in the story. And so, having romanceable aliens, basically, I was like, what? It just seemed a little, like, maybe not until later on in the game would that be something that I'd be thinking about. I don't know. One thing that they just released, though, which I really like this in just as an aspect of farming games in general, is there's a character named Sabira, and she's like an older character. You can now romance her. They add it, so basically, like, she's probably in her like 50s or 60s or something, and I think that farming games in general need to open up that type of like relationship with older humans, because, you know, as someone who, I was married, surprise, like I was married, and I was in a relationship for 9 years with that human. And then I left that relationship, and then I was in my like late 20s. And even like now, if I were to be single, you know, in my 30s, like when I play farming games or whatever, or play these games where you have like romanceable whatevers, it's always like young, early 20s or teenagers. And it's just like, but like circumstances happen, and other people need to find love as well. And so I just really wish that diversity was represented in games. So yeah, I don't know. I really liked that.
Yeah, I think diversity is important. Yeah.
Cool. Was there any character that like stuck out to you that you really enjoyed?
Unfortunately, the answer is no. Like I like, now I can think about it and I can recall all of the different characters, but it's almost in the bad way, where I think they're all sort of a bit tropey. Actually, the one character, the one character that I do like is the fishing robot.
I was literally about to say, but what about the fishing robot?
The fishing robot is cool. I'm a big fan of him, and he like, I think particularly because his trope is unexpected. You know, where he's sort of like looking for, or trying to find that Zen spot and help other people find. They don't call it the Zen spot. I can't remember what he refers to it as, but I thought that was like a fun little twist on a robot character.
Mm-hmm. And his mannerisms are so cute. And like, there are, throughout the world, sometimes you'll find like these shiny pebbles or whatever, and someone mentioned that he really likes them. I think his name's like Einar or something. Someone mentioned that he really likes them, and so every time I find one, I go and bring it to him, and every single time he's like over the moon about these shiny pebbles, and I'm just like, you are so cute. So big fan of him for sure. Well, since we talked about fishing, let's talk about something they say, again, that's part of this game, is living off the land any way that you like. So they have, I think it's 8 different, like, skills that you can improve. And some of them are, you know, fishing, hunting, mining, cooking, bug catching, foraging. Those are all things that are in most games. But they also have hunting, furniture making, and then, I guess gardening is another, like regular one in these types of games. So let's just briefly touch on these and like talk about the pros and cons of each of them and the way that they do them, and if we really like it or not. So what do you think about the fishing?
I think fishing's pretty good. So the mechanic requires like a bit of, you know, like you follow the fish around. You're not just I guess the minigame kind of makes sense, right? And it's one of my big frustrations with a lot of fishing minigames is often the minigames kind of are like, oh, wait, what am I trying to do? And how does this align to the fish? Whereas this one's like, keep the thing over the fish, reel it in. I think it's straightforward in a way that makes a lot of sense. Like, it doesn't take a lot of brain power to work it out. It can be difficult, right? Like, it's not necessarily the easiest mechanic. But I think it's a relatively good fishing mechanic. This from a person that hates most fishing mechanics.
Yeah, I think my only complaint about it is, if I'm remembering correctly, it's always a while after you reel out, like that you've put it out, that it always like takes some time, and then it's always like 1 or 2 or 3 bobs or something. Like, there's no... It's almost like boring with how methodical it can be until you're reeling in. Then when you're reeling in, it's fine. But the other part of it, I was just like, okay, I know I'm going to, you know, make sure my My bobber is in the circle, and then I know I probably have to wait, like I will have to wait like 5 seconds and blah, 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 blah. But that's a very minor complaint. For the most part, I give the fishing a B. Foraging. So the interesting thing about foraging is it also includes cutting down trees. Which, because you have an axe, but you also have a pickaxe, like to me, my brain was like, oh, there's 8 things and there's 8 tools. So each tool is going to align with one of these things. And that is not the case. So foraging includes for the forestry side of it, where you cut down trees, but it also includes just picking stuff up. Like wild plants and stuff. I think it was fine.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it's a waste of a skill. Like, I kind of just wish foraging included mining, like having foraging and mining being separate. Mm-hmm. I get it that, like, they're kind of going, one is for natural stuff and one is for rocks, which I guess are also natural. One is for plant stuff and one is for inorganic stuff. However, like, it's fine. It's just, I don't know, like, foraging including wood cutting is not normal, so that kind of broke my brain a little bit as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I mean, it works. I would give it a B- maybe. The real A+ though is hunting.
Hunting is so good.
I've killed so many deer.
Right?
So they mentioned pretty early on there's deer, and then there are, in the main like first area that you're in, there's these deer, and then these almost like raccoon looking things. And someone specifically says that the raccoon things are invasive or they're not meant to be here or something. And he's like, if you could cull them, that'd be great. So you don't feel bad about killing them, I guess, hunting them. But yeah, do you want to explain hunting?
Yeah. So basically you have a bow and arrow, and depending on the quality of your arrows, you deal more or less damage, and so when you've got to kind of get close enough. If you get too close, you'll spook them and they'll run off. Sometimes you'll hit them with an arrow and they won't deal enough damage, and so they'll run off, and you kind of have to chase them around. This is probably the part where the performance suffers the most, because rather than running around, the deer's kind of more teleport around the map. So you kind of need to wait for them to stop running before you take another shot. I don't think it's like that on PC, by the way. I think that's exclusively a Switch feature.
It's so funny though. They run for like 4 steps and then they just are standing there, and then they're suddenly standing like 10 feet away, and then they just keep doing that, and it's so funny.
It's pretty magical. And yeah, when you hunt them, you get a range of materials, which I think is the other reason that it's quite cool. So you get like their hide, which you can turn into leather. You get meat, and you can get horns, which I think are used in some like high level crafting stuff, but also sell for a decent amount. So, and it's just really satisfying. We talked about Pokemon Legends Arceus. It kind of gives me the similar vibe, except instead of running around throwing Pokeballs, you're just running around putting an arrow into the head of all of these deer, and it's honestly super satisfying. Like.
It's just so satisfying to kill these deer. Yeah, the one, we'll get to the MMO part later, but like the one time that Jonnie and I guess we played a couple times together, I don't remember, but we basically were just independently killing a bunch of deer the whole time.
It was great.
It was so good, and I still really like it. Like, this is still a very, very like good part of the game. Another thing that is a lot like Pokemon Arceus is the insect catching. So in the insect catching, the little kid with the giant backpack who's in the troops, the Boy Scout troop or whatever, he just gives you these like smoke bombs, and you literally hurl these smoke bombs at insects, and like, which would 100% smish them. But I love it. And they basically become dazed for a second. And then they'll either become incapacitated, in which case you can go and collect them, or they'll they'll become undazed, and then they'll run from you, and then you have to try and hit them again with another smoke bomb. Which this was really satisfying to just run around and like throw things.
And sometimes the insects will poke out of like a chopped down tree or a rock or something like that. So it's kind of one of those things that you always want to have on, because I think some of the rarer bugs, you know, they require those contextual events to happen first, which is quite cool.
I will say, like, I think there are certain areas where you just see the same type of like grasshopper like a billion times. And I would probably appreciate a little bit more insect diversity, but I get it. But I bet like hunting, we would also like diversity of things to hunt, since there's only 2 things in the main area. And the other area has like 3 different things, and
yeah, it adds a wolf.
It adds a wolf thing, and then also the deer and the raccoons are a little bit heftier over there. But yeah, I think I would just like that to be fleshed out a little bit more. And have something that maybe like some way to like track them, because they're 9 times out of 10 I would basically almost be running over one before I saw it, and then it's kind of this like like I gotta get my stuff and like be able to throw this, but by the time I do that, it's already like running away, and maybe it'll bury itself again or something. And I was just like really I would like a way to like maybe be able to like notice the insects better or something, like maybe have that be something that that kid gives you, like, here's some glasses that make you real good at detecting insects. I don't know. Did enjoy it though. Mining and cooking, well, I guess mining is self-explanatory, nothing to say there. Cooking starts off also not explanatory or self-explanatory, like you have a cook fire, but it gets a little complicated.
Cooking's so good.
Yeah, so I didn't get super far into that, so can you explain it?
So as you progress with cooking and you add more stations, the stations add mini games to what you are doing. So you might have to chop up your vegetables first, and that chopping will be a rhythm-based game where you kind of need to hit a thing, hit on the beat 8 times to effectively chop the vegetables, and then you add them to the pot, and so you're progressively, getting more complicated recipes and having to do more prep, and you've got a time constraint around it. So I think it's typically like a minute. And at the end of that minute, if you don't have everything in the pot, then, well, I assume you failed to cook. I don't actually know. I don't think I've it's not difficult, right? So I haven't failed. But I think the addition of a lot of little mini games that make a lot of sense is really good. And I kind of want to talk a little bit. I know we'll talk more about the MMO part a little bit later, but this is one of the aspects where the MMO part comes in really well, because what you can do with multiple people is you can cook together. So you're all doing the mini games separately, and what that means is you don't need to necessarily supply all the ingredients yourself, and you share the ingredients. So this is one of those skills that they've really put a lot of thought into, and not just copied what the standard for cottagecore is. And it's a really great mechanic, I think, in this game.
Awesome. Yeah, I haven't gotten to the part where you're cooking simultaneously with people. I will say they do that with cutting down trees and with mining. There, in the world, there are some like trees that you'll encounter or mining nodes that you'll encounter where they have a special resource within them, and they glow, or they just stand out as that type of ore or whatever. And you can't do it by yourself, period, end of story. Like, you hit it and it heals itself. So you actually need like multiple people who all have implements, like the pickaxe or the axe that is improved enough so that they can hit it and land the hit. And you take it down as a group, which I thought was really cool. You're running around and someone's just like, oh, there's what do they call a flow tree? They call it a flow tree because flow is like the magic system or whatever. Like, oh, there's a flow tree right by Einar's house. And then like a bunch of people will be like, oh, coming. And then generally like people wait and they wait for you to show up and then you all just start hacking away. And then it doesn't take very long, but it's something that it kind of facilitates or encourages the MMO side of the game, even with people that you might not know, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah, and I, the other aspect that I think is really smart about the way that the MMO side works is if multiple people, say, hit a tree, shoot an arrow at the same deer, whatever it is, they'll both get loot. So
yeah,
there's no downside to someone else cutting the same tree. Like, it actually makes it faster for everyone. So they've thought about some of that stuff. So there's no competition for resources other than the deer. Like, if you're one-shotting them, then there is a bit of competition for those. But in general, most things don't have competition for them. You are better off working with other players to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So I'm excited to get to that part of the cooking. Furniture making is also self-explanatory, at least in the beginning. Does it get a bit different? Do you?
I haven't seen it get any different yet. I guess the cool thing about furniture making is when you start getting a new set. So I think like the first set of furniture is like your log cabin style. Every time you build a piece, your character then gets one of three options for the next piece of the furniture set to unlock. So you kind of have to build all of the furniture in order to unlock the full set. So it really encourages you to use the mechanic.
Yeah, I remember that because my game glitched on the first time I encountered that. But yeah, so it's like your character like builds the chair or something, and then they get like thought bubbles, and they get like this contemplative like thinking face of like and it says like you have ideas. What would you like to build next? And it has these like shadowed out things, and you basically then get the recipe to make the item, which I think is really cool. It's Is there an NPC that teaches you this, or is it all pretty much self-driven?
So there is there is an NPC who runs the furniture store, and I think she sells you some of the recipes for later furniture sets.
Okay.
So you can kind of get started. So there's lots or a few different furniture sets, and she'll sell you the initial recipes to get started.
Mm-hmm. Okay. But I thought this was definitely one that didn't seem like you had to go to someone to develop it further. Like you don't really get held back. Maybe, but I guess maybe if you have to go get this up.
Yeah, probably because there's no specific tools associated with it. The other thing that I think is a bit unfortunate with furniture making is furniture isn't sellable, and I understand why, because it would kind of just mean that every resource you get you would otherwise need to put into furniture making, and it would kind of, effectively create a non-option for players to not engage with it. But it is kind of frustrating that you can't do anything with furniture making other than decorate your house, so it just feels a little bit lost at the moment in terms of its place. I kind of like this would be a good. We talked about the relationship aspect earlier and how to make it better. Maybe donating furniture to the NPCs would be a good way to incorporate that.
Yeah, or like have like a house. I'm imagining like almost like a homeless shelter or something, like a community center that you could donate those things to, and then maybe like after a while it starts populating into the building, and so you can see like a building being created, but it's being created by someone, not you, so you don't have to design it.
That would be cool.
I hate designing things. My house is nothing right now. It doesn't have anything in it.
But while we are talking about furniture making, the other thing I'll say that is cool is there's a lot of flexibility with how you place furniture. So it's you can get very detailed. You can turn things so you're not stuck on like a grid system where you can only rotate things 90 degrees. But there is a sort of a really fine underlying grid system, so you can line things up in a way that's really satisfying. But you've also got the flexibility. I think this is a for almost any other game, they should be looking at how you place furniture in this game and trying to replicate it as much as possible.
Yeah, it gave me like Sims vibes, but in a more satisfying, because you actually can like build the things. So I really enjoyed the little 4 or 5 items that I did place, that I got for free. I was like, oh, this is satisfying. This is really, I actually feel like I could, if I had the home decor gene in my bones, like I could do some cool stuff with this house. And then I guess the other aspect of that, I guess this is another, I'll save that for the MMO part. The final skill is gardening, which is just farming. They say gardening, but it's farming. To me, gardening, the difference is like gardening is maintaining something to be aesthetically beautiful versus like farming. Farming is like for sustenance, and you're planting things that you will harvest. So I would call this farming. Anyway, I really like, we both talked about how this was a really satisfying system.
It's so good.
Yeah, do you want to get into it?
Yeah, so I guess most of it's normal. Some small differences. So like when you're hoeing the land, you're sort of, it's not just hoeing a tile at a time. You're sort of having to scrape over the tile, kind of like you're painting over it, I guess. And that's kind of satisfying. But the really big difference is that plants have effects that they can bestow on plants of a different type that they are next to. So, for example, I think tomatoes mean that the surrounding plots need to be watered less. And so it leads to this really fun, I guess we'll call it a mini game, where you are trying to, you're trying to like work out like, how am I going to lay out my plot of things to get as many beneficial benefits onto as many plants as possible. Really, really cool little mechanic. And also makes total sense. Like, it's inspired by, some aspects of real world, biodiversity sort of elements, but done in a really simple way that I love. I think it's so good.
Yeah. I remember reading and finding out that tomatoes had that property, and then buying a metric hecton of tomatoes and then like designing like where in my plots I wanted tomatoes to be like the centerpieces, because at least to my knowledge so far, if you don't water things, they don't die, but they just don't really grow.
Yeah, so because the game's on a real world timer, so every 12 hours is half an hour. So I think a full day cycle is an hour, and I think on, like every half hour is sort of when things like plants growing and stuff tick over. And because it's tied to the real world, if they aren't watered, they won't die. They'll just stop progressing, which I think makes total sense, because in this game you will go out into the world and you might get stuck. You might get distracted and do a whole bunch of stuff out there and not be sort of checking in on your farm. And I think if they died because they weren't watered, that would be more frustrating than fun.
Yeah, it wouldn't let you explore as much. So that's really nice. The watering is straightforward. You hold a watering can over it and it fills up a little bar, and then it's like, okay, I have enough water now. Thank you. So, yeah, and then you can use those for cooking, or you can just eat them raw. There's your standard onions, wheat, turnips, maybe. I don't remember.
It's just kind of usual. There's nothing particularly interesting or unique about the crops that you can grow. They
did just add 2 new crops and 2 new forageables, which is really nice. So it is cool to see that they're still adding to this game. And they do have, so moving on to like the MMO part, properly, I guess. They have an event going on right now called the Magi event, which this is very akin to like what I think of an MMO. Like when you play World of Warcraft, there's the New Year's Day event that you play, and you can get things that are specific to that holiday period. Or it was always the freaking Halloween, because I wanted the dude's skeletal horse, the Headless Horseman's horse, and he only showed up in Halloween, and I never got that horse. So it was things like that. And this, it has that. It has that where you can play these games with other people. There's like races and cooking events together and some things. I haven't played since this event has started, which it started literally 3 days ago or whatever. Have you been able to play it at all?
No, I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but it seems like a big step up from the Christmas event. So the Christmas event was very single player, and for whatever reason, they gave everyone like 20 snowballs every single day to the point where it was just like I felt like my character was drowning in these snowballs.
Yeah, I agree.
And so I think it's cool to see, like, this is the sort of event that is like, oh, cool, I do want to jump back in and check that out.
Well, maybe we should do that in the next couple days.
Maybe we should do it after we stop recording. Maybe we should do it while we're recording.
I contemplated playing this while we were recording. But I was like, I don't want to heck up my internet bandwidth while I do that. But yeah, it looks really nice. It's good to see that they're adding new things. I think my biggest discontent with the MMO part of it is that it switches servers all the time. Like when you go to your plot, you kind of go into this solo, but you can invite friends situation.
Yeah, you go into your plot is on a private instance, right?
Yeah, it's a private instance, and so you don't have other people running around. It makes sense. And then like Jonnie could come to my place, or I could go to. So like that's one benefit of the furniture designing or whatever, or even just plot designing in general, is you can share plots with people, and that seems really fun. And like explore each other's farms and visit farms and stuff. But when you're in the overworld, I get so many messages that are like, you are in a new server. And it makes it really hard because there have been a couple people that I've like played with and I didn't add them or whatever. And I didn't really like talk to them enough to feel comfortable like reaching out to them and being like, do you want to play together sometime? Where how like World of Warcraft did it was you were always you chose a server. So you knew that you were always going to be on the same server with the same people. And that wasn't the case. And then also I know when you and I tried to play together, it kept saying we weren't on the same server, and we tried to join each other's things, and it just was it was really difficult. And we ended up being able to join a party, but not, could we ever see each other? I don't
think we ever actually managed to see each other.
We were like, and we'll figure it out later. I mean, but it was fun to just like jump on a Zoom call together and talk while we played that. For like hours. And I do remember playing one of the times and telling you like, oh, I'm just going to go back to my house real quick. And then like 45 minutes later, I was like, oh no, it's midnight.
Yeah.
like I really need to go to bed. Okay, this time I really mean it. And it's just a lot of fun to be able to play like simultaneously with people in that way. But I would have really appreciated, and I hope they've fixed it by now. Maybe we'll get an update to that and post it in the Slack, of being able to like actually play next to each other, like have our characters be in the same world would be really nice.
And I think to sort of build off that frustration, not being able to not being easy to link up in the same world and continually changing servers, is we talked about how there's the MMO aspects in terms of the resource gathering. Unfortunately, that's kind of where it stops. And I don't know how they, what their plans are for it going forward. But in other MMOs, like the point is that the very end game content is meant to be stuff that you do with other people. And usually that's combat focused. So I don't know how they're going to get that. But the dungeons that are in the game are single player dungeons. They are not something.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Yeah, so they're not something that you do with other players at all. And that is the thing I think I would really be looking for, is I want the dungeons to have, those the hard versions or whatever that you have to do with other players, because that's ultimately a part of the appeal. Is if I'm playing an MMO, I want to play with other people, and it's been interesting following some of the communities around this game, because there's definitely the contingent that just want to play on their own, which I think is fine in MMOs, right? You shouldn't be an expectation that you have to play with other people, but a big part of MMO is having that content that encourages you to play with other people, and it doesn't feel there yet. It feels like there's a pathway for this game to go, which is why it's difficult to recommend just yet, but a really solid foundation. But I'm interested to see how they amplify the MMO aspect, because at the moment it feels more like a gimmick so they can say that they're an MMO rather than being a true MMO experience.
Yeah, I agree. And I am really excited to see where they go with it, because I agree there's a really solid foundation here, and I see the potential. But if this is where it stays forever, like it would fall a little flat for me. For sure. I would like if you could expand upon, I didn't ever do a dungeon, so I would like it if you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, cool.
So are they procedurally generated, or are they a fixed map?
No, so they're a fixed map. They've got a heavy story element to them. There will be some number of the NPCs that are accompanying you to kind of give you quests to guide through the dungeons. The dungeons reveal, I guess, a lot of the backstory as to what's happening in the world, and they introduce some unique challenges. Like you'll have to go around, and one of them was very sort of puzzle heavy, where you were solving mazes and a few other sorts of puzzles. One I recall, you had to kind of go around and find objects that were sort of hidden on the map, and there's lots of great verticality, and there's a glider in this game, which I don't think we've talked about. So you need the glider to get over certain things, and there was air currents pushing you up and some that would push you down. So like they felt like good dungeons. Like they were well there were some design issues in some of them, but in general they were largely well designed. Like they felt like a good dungeon for a game that has no combat, right? Like I was kind of like, how are you going to do a dungeon in a game with no combat? But they did a really good job. I guess it's just then how does that expand into a dungeon that has a purpose when there are multiple people there? Because currently they're all just sort of single player content.
Yeah, that's because I hadn't done any of those. I did see these, like, the mines, the different, like, mining areas, and there are ruins. So there's, and the world is really, like, it's really pretty in that way, that there's a lot of the ruins are really pretty looking, and there is that mystery of, like, what happened here? Like, these ruins apparently aren't from the people that were here, and there's the archaeologist lady who's trying to figure out what the heck's going on. And so it's cool that you can, like, help her do that and stuff. So I'm excited to see a little bit more about that as well. So when you said dungeons, I was like, what? But yeah, that's something that I'd be really interested to check out.
And what I didn't get to, so this is, I don't think it's a spoiler, but I get that some people are very precious about spoilers, so whatever. Okay. But the other thing that's locked behind the dungeons is the version of the bundles or community center upgrades. So their bundles are like very much seem to be geared towards late game content. I haven't completed any, so I'm not clear on what the rewards for them are. But that's where that sort of thing is hidden and is in the game. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes from that.
Yeah, I did see that. Like I had unlocked that chamber, the like dragon chamber or whatever it's called, and unlocked I think the wind thing, and or the water one. I don't remember. And so I did one of those things. I don't know if that's considered a dungeon, like what you're considering a dungeon, where you do that and then it unlocks like some of the things that you can community center, which I guess I did that one, but
so then you have done one of the dungeons. You probably did the first one.
Okay,
right?
Cool.
Yeah
Well, it's the one that you and I were talking once before recording a different podcast, and you had gotten stuck at a riddle. And I was like, oh, is it this? And you were like, oh, maybe it is that. And then you were like, it is. And then when I encountered it again, I was like, oh, right, this. Yeah, so I've done that one. So I guess I get what you're talking about.
Yeah, so that's the first dungeon. I think the first one is significantly smaller compared to the other two.
Yeah, it was just a little bit of a riddle and a little bit of finding your way through the ruins. So, but yeah, I mean, I really like it, and I see the potential, and I want to see where it goes. And I think like I would encourage people, if this game is something that you're interested in, play a little bit of it to like get the base understanding of, or like start building up your fishing, foraging, hunting, like all of those skills, but be prepared to come back to the game. Like if you're wanting a game that you're going to be able to complete, I mean, I guess MMOs don't operate that way where you hit like an end point or whatever, but like I could see myself playing this game every now and then, working on my fishing skill or working on whatever, but then not touching it for a month and then picking it back up and being excited by changes they made and then setting it down for another couple months. Like, and that doesn't bother me, but I know some people are very game guzzly and want to do everything right at the beginning. So probably not for those people.
Yeah. I think I kind of feel the same, and I think it's fairly similar to how I felt about Disney Dreamlight Valley. You know, where I played it when it first came out, and I had a really good time, and I enjoyed it, and then I put it down for a good 6 or 7 months, and they added a lot more content, and then I jumped back in and sort of finished it. Played a lot more of it that way, and I think that's probably where I'll be with Palia. And I think for me, the thing that I'm really looking for is, can Cody, Bev, Al and I will jump in and play a game together. That's probably going to be the thing that will pull me back in the most. The rest of the game is good, but it's that MMO thing that I'm really like, I really want to see how far they can push that in the cottagecore genre. Yeah, for sure. I would love it if they really set the standard, and I think the bones are there. Like they have the framework to be able to set the standard for what a farming MMO looks like, that other people can emulate. Kind of like how Stardew was the foundational whatever for just farming games in general. Like the same. I think it could be the same. So caution. So the one thing I just really, I needed to gripe about something. And you've already mentioned it. So this is what I wrote earlier when I just wrote, please, for the love of God, let me get rid of event items like the wallpapers, and also just furniture in general. Some of the characters will like gift you a wallpaper, and they're like, my favorite color is yellow, so here's a yellow wallpaper. And I'm like, cool, I don't give two hoots about decorating my home. I'm gonna throw this away, or I'm going to sell this, and you can't sell it, and I can't figure out how to throw it away, unless it's really, really simple and I just haven't figured it out. But even then, I have like my hoarding tendencies of like, well, I don't want to like throw, like, what if I want it later, So, and the one downside that I think is that all of the chests that you make are linked. Correct me if this is a later game thing where this does not happen. They are all linked.
Okay, cool.
And I think so. So like the storage is kind of, it's just poorly designed. Like I kind of just feel like they should just give everyone infinite storage. And for whatever reason, they've decided not to, and so the storage is very limited, but furniture doesn't count towards the limit. So so like you say, like you get a lot of it, and you're not incentivized to throw it out. There are lots of tabs that sort of sort stuff for you, but the inventory system's just a bit overwhelming. I think it would be better if there was, like, you had a pantry that you went to, and that was where all of your food stuffs were stored, and you had, your chest is where maybe all of your resources are stored, and you had a furniture room, and that's where all of your furniture was stored, because it's just a bit overwhelming when you're going through the menu trying to work out what you have and don't have and what tab does that thing live in. And then there's like quest items that you, because sometimes you uncover a quest item before you have the quest, and it just gets a bit confusing. So I'm not a huge fan of the storage, and I think they should just go infinite storage and some better organization options to help you navigate that, and so you don't need to build 1,000 or 8, because I think 8's the maximum. You can have 8 chests that sort of just randomly dot your land.
Yeah, I think like for me, they could solve it just by having a type of chest that you can build, or a pantry that you could build, or whatever, and have either a toggle where you can like lock it or something and say that like I only want this to be like, when I open this item, I like this chest, I only want to see things that I have specifically put into this chest. Versus like, because you can build 10 chests, but then when you open any of them, you are opening the same inventory. And it adds, like, you can build, I almost want to build like 100 chests and just put them in the back of my property and never look at them.
Yep.
Because that just adds, like, each chest adds like, I want to say like 200 space or whatever to your inventory space in your storage system. But then you have to have all these chests all over the place, and it's just like, where do you put them? And you know, if I could have a chest that's like a locked chest and I could just throw all the furniture stuff in there, and then that stuff did not show up in my global inventory, that would be great. Because I mean, especially after playing Minecraft for so long and having, you know, a chest, like dedicated chests, or even Coral Island, like, this is the chest that I put my mining stuff in. Here's the chest that I put my food in, or like food for like going out and exploring things. And then I'll go put raw foods in the fridge. Like, that helps organize things so well. And that was my one gripe with this game, is I get real frustrated by the storage system and the inventory system, so that could definitely be revamped.
Yeah, I'm going to see your gripe and add another small one. Okay. So when you upgrade the tools get durability, and you have to repair them. I just have no interest in repairing tools. I hate durability mechanics. Like, occasionally they make sense in games, but this is not one of them. I've upgraded the tool, just let me have it. And if it breaks, you have to rebuild the tool. You can't repair it, which requires more.
You can repair it.
You can? Oh.
There are repair kits that you can make.
Oh, yeah. So you can repair it.
You have to craft them.
Yeah. So you can repair the tool, but if it fully loses its durability, it breaks, and you have to rebuild it. It's just a terrible mechanic. It adds nothing to the game other than being a way to, you know, sort of like drain resources out, which I get MMOs sometimes need those sort of sinks. I just don't want it to be in a durability mechanic that's for the tools that I use to gather resources. It's just a bit frustrating, to be honest. I'm not a fan. And it leads to weird things, right? So, like, for hunting, because a higher level bow doesn't increase your damage, it only increases your range, and the range on the standard bow is pretty good. Like, there is no incentive to upgrade the bow. You are totally fine to just use the basic level bow. Which is, it's just a bit silly and unnecessary, right? Because I want to buy the upgrade, but if there's no point to it, there's no value to it, it's just going to drain resources, then why bother?
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. So I want to do some final thoughts, because I feel like we've hit on a lot of negatives, but I've played a lot of this game. I've probably put like 40 hours into it, and I've had a really, really good time with it. Like, I think the gameplay loop of this game is super fun. The other thing that this game made me realize is I hate like just day-night cycles that, you know, like the Stardew Valley, you know, your day lasts for 17 minutes and then you go to sleep. Like, I just want to run around and do stuff. I'm so over that sort of, the stamina mechanic, all of those sorts of things I'm over. Oh, and we haven't talked about the stamina mechanic in this game because it's so good.
Or the focus.
The focus, that's what I mean. So in this game, instead of stamina, you have a thing called focus. Focus gives you extra XP for doing tasks, and you get focus by eating food, and doing stuff drains your focus. So rather than being punished for having low stamina, you get rewarded for having high stamina, which is amazing. It's just a really subtle change, but all of a sudden you're like, I want to cook, I want to engage with these mechanics, I want to have high focus all the time. Brilliant mechanic. I love that. I love the fact that it's just, an hour is a day-night cycle. All that does is it affects, where the NPCs are and what critters and fish are available. But other than that, I can just play the game. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about what day, is it month 2 of season 3 and I have to wait 30 more days before I can do the thing that I want to do. I get why it's a thing in farming games. I just want to say I'm kind of over it, and I'm excited for the season 3 world.
Yeah, and not only season 3, because like they could have seasons in this game, that's fine, but like and tie it to real life, right? So like they're gonna have events, and
are they gonna tie it to Northern Hemisphere or Southern Hemisphere? Because I'll say if it's Northern Hemisphere,
you're right. Well, wait, did you just have the winter event?
Yeah, we had the winter event, which it's one of those
tied
things
to Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah, but it's kind of weird, right? Because and that's why I'd be very against seasons, because I don't want to be playing a game in. Actually, I think it'd be better if it was tied to Southern Hemisphere seasons, because then in winter, which is cold in the Northern Hemisphere, you'll be having your summer season, which is actually a good time to be. It's when you wanted people to be playing the game, right? Like,
wasn't there a game that did that? What am I thinking of?
I'm sure there was, but it seems...
Because there was a game that did that, and it was Animal Crossing. Because, you were on the Southern Hemisphere, and I was on the Northern Hemisphere, and our seasons were flipped. So I could go visit...
Oh, wait.
No? I thought so, because I think I came and visited your area.
Oh, yeah, it was. No, sorry. I think you're right.
Because you had... Because you were in summer, and I was like, well, I want some of the summer bugs.
That's right, it was
or some of the summer fish. Yes. And that was really cool to have that happen. I guess it wouldn't work as well for the events because, or maybe I guess you could do it. I mean, because people might go to a different hemisphere to experience wintry events when it is your winter versus our summer. So, but it is cool when played.
I don't think it would work for the MMO aspect, right? Because then you have to divide your servers by what hemisphere you're on.
Yeah. When I remember that being one of the concerns, because you were on the Pacific server or whatever, or not server, realm, and I was on the US one, and it was kind of this are we even going to be able to play together? But we figured it out, so it's fine. But yeah, that might be an issue. That would be really cool to... I did enjoy that in games, and I do also really agree, especially some games, and we've mentioned this before, how in some games I'm playing, and by the time I feel like I finally hit my stride in a day, and I finally feel like I'm making good progress on farming or something, my character is suddenly I'm gonna pass out. I am very tired, I am gonna pass out, not because of stamina but because of time, just because it's 1 a.m. and I'm like, but I still have so much stamina. So I am also starting to detest that system, and really enjoyed it about this game, that it was just continuous. And yeah, I guess I agree with the fact that we were perhaps a little negative, but I want to say most of my vibes about this game are positive, and I'm really positively looking forward to the future of this game. This is not a game like others that I've covered sometimes where I'm and I can uninstall this now and never think about it again. This game is something I will continue to return to, check in with whenever they have these events, like the Magi event right now, and just be excited when a new friend starts playing. If I hear that Al gets into this game and has started playing it, I'm going to be like, oh, let's go show Al, let's go, walk him through the game and help him build up his area, and give him resources that he might need or whatever. So Definitely feeling good about this game.
Yeah, me too. And I think a lot of the, probably we were overly critical because we both really like it and we see the potential, right? It's not criticism with nowhere to go. It's actually like there is a ton of room for this game to be something truly magical.
Yes. And I think it is already a step up from other games. But there's potential. So much potential. So yeah, that's what I had to say about the game. Downey, do you have anything else?
So the only other thing very quickly is just on monetization. So it's all through cosmetics. It's standard overprice. If you're really into the game, you can pay a lot of money to have your character wear a pirate hat or whatever it is. It's the sort of cosmetics, it's the sort of monetization that I'm totally fine with. It doesn't impact your gameplay, other than how your character looks on the screen. And if you want to pay for that and support the game that way, you can, and you overpay for it because the game is free to download, right? Like it's free to play.
Yeah.
So it's one of those trade-offs where so occasionally online you'll see people complaining about the price, and it's like, yes, but the rest of the game is free. They have to make their money somewhere, and this is a totally fine way for them to make their money. So that's good or cool or whatever. I mean, it's just good that they're making this game accessible and they're monetizing it in ways that don't feel predatory.
Yeah. It definitely, there's not really a way that it could be pay to play. So unless someone bought in-game currency with real money, but even then, people can do whatever they want with their own money. It's fine. There's not a competitive aspect with other players, against other players in this game. So I really, enjoy that. I mean, and when I found out where the money, that store was, I was like, cool, just don't have to go back to this tab. I really like the game, but I'm, personally not in a place to be able to buy a cute little pet or something, a cute little thing to follow you around, or I think I saw someone with wings or something. There's these different cosmetic things you can do that are really cool, but not right now. So, okay, well, that was Palia. I'm sure we'll probably be doing a second harvest because we do have other humans who are playing this game. So where can people find you on the interwebs, Jonnie?
As always, if you want to find me, the easiest way to do that is to go to patreon.com/thspod. Support the show. With that, you get access to our Slack channel where you can see Codey's updates on everything from Fox-based Minecraft islands to Palia to whatever other games we might all be playing in there.
Oh, and my Groundhog Day pictures that I still have to post. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, which I don't really use anymore. Just my name, Codey Mathis. You can find me on Instagram, Hiking Beagle, B-E-Eagle. I'm more active on that, and I share a lot of memes to my story. So for sure, follow me on that if you want to see things that make me laugh. If you have any issues with the podcast, you can complain to Al, or if you think that we're gosh, Cody's so annoying. You can tweet Al at the ScottBot on mastodon.scott and Twitter. You can follow the pod at Tumblr and on Twitter at THSPod. You can give other feedbacks and find the links at the website at harvestseason.club, where you can also find a link to the Patreon that Jonnie mentioned. Jonnie, thank you so much this was a lot of fun to talk about this game that we both really enjoyed. Thanks for joining me.
It's always fun when you and I get to come on and do a show together. I
know. I am... Oh my gosh. Did you hear that episode where I talked about how I gasped aloud when Al said that you two were doing Tales of the Shire?
Yes.
I was like doing dishes and I was like, no. And I like started drying my hands furiously so that I could grab my phone and like furiously text. And like in the podcast, Al was like, I know there's people who other people who hosts that probably wanted to play this game. I'm sorry, but I'm pulling rank. And I was like, oh. So I look forward to doing the second harvest with you, Jonnie.
Great. I'm looking forward to talking a lot about that game. When and if it comes out, I feel like it's been forever, even though it hasn't really been that long yet.
It's fine. We will wait as long as it takes. I am so excited. Listeners, let us know if you're also excited about Tales of the Shire or anything else that you think that we should be playing or excited about, or if you've been to Punxsutawney and you've seen Phil, let me know how your experience was.
Or if you're playing any of the demos, because it seems like we're entering a bit of a resurgence of demos. So if you play a demo and you think, wow, that game is way better than I expected, or way worse than I expected, like we want to hear about it, because we're not always playing all of the demos or all of the games that are out there because there's too much. So please tell us.
Yes, we would super appreciate it. Well, yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Thanks, Jonnie, for joining me. And until next time, have a good harvest.
The Harvest Season is created by Al McKinley, with support from our patrons, including our pro farmers, Kevin, Stuart, and Elisa. Our art is done by Micah the Brave, and our music is done by Nick Burgess. Feel free to visit our website, harvestseason.club, for show notes and links to things we discussed in this episode.
Have a good harvest.
I stopped in the... Hold on. Let's try that again.
Okay. And until next time,
have a
good harvest.
Oh my god, that was terrible. Oh well, I will make it work.
Al, I want you to auto-tune it, actually. Like... I actually want him to convert it to Groundhog ease. I want to hear it in Groundhog ease.
Oh yeah, that really easy request.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy. Yeah, he can do it.